The rain came down in cold, steady sheets, blurring the streetlights into long, golden streaks that shimmered across the wet pavement. The quiet neighborhood of Briarwood was the kind of place where nothing ever happened, the kind of place people moved to when they wanted to feel safe. That night, however, safety had already vanished. Detective Ethan Cole stepped out of his car, his leather jacket soaked through as he studied the three-story apartment building in front of him. A single police cruiser flashed red and blue against the brick walls. Yellow tape fluttered in the wind like a warning flag. Somewhere inside, a woman had disappeared without a sound. Her name was Lena Hart. 26 years old, marketing assistant, no criminal history, no known enemies, just gone. Ethan ducked under the tape and climbed the creaking staircase to apartment 3B. Inside, the air was strangely still, as though time itself had stopped the moment Lena left, or was taken. The lights were on, the TV hummed quietly, showing a late-night cooking show. A half-empty mug of coffee sat on the table, cold now, a faint ring left behind, like a ghost of her last moment. No sign of forced entry, a crime scene officer told him. Doors were locked, windows too. Ethan nodded, already uneasy. People didn't simply walk out of their lives like this. The apartment was neat, unnaturally so. Lena's laptop was closed, her handbag rested by the couch, her shoes were lined up neatly by the door. Even her bed had been made. It looked less like someone had vanished and more like someone had been erased. Ethan crouched near the coffee mug. Any prints? Smudged. Someone wiped the surface. That was the first real crack in the picture. Someone had been here after Lena. As technicians continued searching, Ethan slowly walked through the small apartment. On the wall were photos of Lena smiling with her family. One caught his attention, a man standing beside her, tall, dark-haired, his arm around her shoulders. "That's her brother, Daniel," a uniformed officer said. "He died 2 years ago, car accident." Ethan stared at the photo. Lena's smile looked forced, her eyes tired. Anyone else close to her? Her younger sister reported her missing. No boyfriend, no roommates, but she used to work for a guy named Marcus Reed. Ethan's ears perked up. Who? Big shot businessman, owns half the downtown real estate. Ethan frowned. Something about that connection didn't sit right. Then a crime scene technician called out, "Detective, you need to see this." Ethan joined her by the couch. She lifted the edge of the fabric and reached underneath. Her gloved hand came back holding something dark and folded. A black leather glove. It was heavy, expensive-looking, clearly not Lena's, and sewn into the wrist was a small gold button, polished but scratched, engraved with 2 initials, M.R. The room went silent. Ethan took the glove carefully. This wasn't random. Someone had dropped this or left it behind. "Bag it," he said. "Get it to the lab." As the team continued their work, Ethan pulled out Lena's phone. It was on the table, battery nearly dead. The last thing she'd done before disappearing was try to make a call. He scrolled through her call history. The final number made his chest tighten. Marcus Reed. The time, 11:42 p.m. No answer. 3 minutes later, her phone went offline. The storm outside rumbled like distant thunder, and Ethan felt the first true chill of the case creep into his bones. Marcus Reed lived in a glass and steel mansion overlooking the city. The next morning, Ethan stood in front of its towering gates, watching them slide open automatically. The house looked like it belonged to someone who had nothing to hide, which made Ethan even more suspicious. Marcus greeted him with a perfect smile. "Detective Cole, isn't it? How can I help?" "I'm investigating Lena Hart's disappearance." Marcus nodded calmly. "Tragic. She was a good worker. I was sorry to hear she went missing. Did you speak to her last night? He didn't hesitate. No. Ethan studied his eyes. Her phone says you called her. A flicker passed across Marcus's face, so quick most people would have missed it. She was upset about being fired, Marcus said smoothly. She must have been desperate. Why was she fired? Company matters. Ethan left, more convinced than ever that something was wrong. Back at the station, the lab called with their first result. The glove wasn't just expensive, it was custom-made, produced by only one luxury tailor in the city. Ethan now had a trail, and someone very powerful was standing at the end of it. As he stared at Lena's photo on his desk, Ethan realized one terrifying truth. Lena hadn't vanished. She had been silenced, and the clue that was supposed to solve the case had only opened the door to something much darker. Detective Ethan Cole stood alone in the evidence room, staring at the black glove sealed inside a clear plastic bag. Under the harsh white lights, it looked harmless, just another forgotten piece of clothing. But Ethan knew better. That glove was a fingerprint of a hidden life, a trail leading towards someone who had spent years building the illusion of respectability. The luxury tailor confirmed what Ethan already suspected. "It was commissioned 6 months ago," the tailor said nervously. "Custom leather, gold buttons engraved with initials. Only one client requested that exact design." Marcus Reed. The name echoed in Ethan's mind like a warning bell. Reed was no stranger to influence. He owned hotels, shipping companies, real estate. His donations kept politicians smiling and the police department well-funded, which meant bringing him in wouldn't be easy. But Ethan didn't care. Lena Hart had walked into something she wasn't supposed to see, and it had cost her everything. Marcus Reed's mansion was quieter this time when Ethan arrived, guarded by private security. The man himself waited in the living room, sitting beside a massive window overlooking the city. He looked more like a king surveying his kingdom than a suspect. "You again," Marcus said calmly. "This is becoming harassment." Ethan placed a photo on the table, a high-resolution image of the glove. "This was found in Lena Hart's apartment." Marcus glanced at it. "And?" "It's custom-made. Only one person in the city owns it." Marcus smiled faintly. "You have no proof it's mine." Ethan pulled out another photo, Marcus wearing the same glove in a charity gala picture from 6 months earlier. The room fell silent. "That's impossible," said Marcus slowly. "Funny. So is lying to the police." Marcus leaned back, his expression suddenly cold. "Are you accusing me of killing that girl?" "Not yet, but you were the last person she tried to contact, and now we know she had something of yours in her apartment." Marcus's eyes hardened. "People steal, people lie. This proves nothing." Ethan stood. "We're not done." The lab results arrived that night. The glove had blood on the inside, but it wasn't Lena's. It belonged to a man who had died 2 years earlier, Daniel Hart, Lena's brother. The official report said Daniel died in a drunk driving accident. His car had gone off a bridge into the river. No witnesses, case closed. But blood didn't lie. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. Marcus Reed had been connected to a man who died long before Lena vanished, which meant Lena hadn't been a random victim. She had been digging up a buried truth. Ethan visited Daniel Hart's old apartment. Dust covered the shelves. The air smelled of forgotten memories. But one thing was new. Someone had been there recently. A drawer was open, paper scattered. On the desk, Ethan found a hidden USB drive taped beneath the surface. When he plugged it in back at the station, the files made his heart race. Bank transfers, shell companies, fake identities, all connected to one man, Marcus Reed. Daniel Hart had been investigating him and had paid the price. And Lena had followed the same trail. Ethan now understood. Marcus Reed wasn't just a businessman, he was something far more dangerous, and Lena Hart had walked straight into his world. As Ethan leaned back in his chair, the realization hit him like a bullet. The clue that was supposed to solve Lena's disappearance only exposed the beginning of a much larger nightmare, and Marcus Reed was no longer just a suspect, he was the monster hiding behind a perfect smile. Detective Ethan Cole hadn't slept in nearly 24 hours. The files from Daniel Hart's hidden USB drive were spread across his desk like pieces of a shattered mirror. Each document reflected a different version of the same truth. Marcus Reed was living a double life, and both Lena and her brother had stumbled into it. Daniel Hart had been an accountant, quiet, brilliant, the kind of man who noticed patterns others ignored. 2 years ago, he'd been hired to audit one of Marcus Reed's smaller shipping companies. On the surface, everything had looked legal, but Daniel had seen something wrong. Millions of dollars moving through shell corporations, vanishing offshore, then reappearing under different names. Someone was laundering money on an enormous scale, and Daniel had traced it back to Marcus Reed. Ethan scrolled through Daniel's notes. There were encrypted messages, screenshots of hidden accounts, and something far more disturbing, payments to people who no longer existed, men and women who had officially died but whose bank accounts were still active. Marcus Reed wasn't just stealing money, he was erasing people. One vial was labeled simply, "The Accidents." Inside were photographs and police reports of unexplained deaths, fires, drownings, hit-and-run cases, all ruled accidental, all tied in one way or another to Marcus Reed's business dealings. Daniel Hart's own death was there too. His car had not simply gone off the bridge, the brakes had been cut. Ethan closed his eyes slowly. He murdered him. Lena Hart had never believed her brother's death was an accident. The files showed she'd taken over Daniel's investigation after he died. She'd hacked into his email, recovered his passwords, and followed his trail right into Marcus Reed's empire. And Marcus had noticed. Ethan visited Lena's younger sister, Maya Hart, in a small rented house on the edge of town. Her eyes were red from crying, but when Ethan told her what Lena had been doing, her grief turned into shock. "She didn't tell me," Maya whispered. "She just kept saying she had to fix something." "She was trying to get justice for your brother," Ethan said gently. Maya swallowed. "Then Marcus Reed took her, didn't he?" Ethan didn't answer. He didn't have to. That night, Ethan made a dangerous decision. He used Daniel's files to follow the money. The trail led to an abandoned warehouse by the docks, one of Marcus Reed's inactive properties. According to the records, millions had flowed through it. Ethan waited until after midnight. The building was dark except for one faint light glowing on the top floor. Someone was there. Gun in hand, Ethan slipped inside. The warehouse smelled of oil and rust. His footsteps echoed as he climbed the metal stairs. At the top, he found something that made his blood run cold. Lena's phone. It lay on a desk beside a laptop. She had been here. Ethan scrolled through the computer. A video file was open. He pressed play. Lena's face appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted, terrified, but determined. "If anyone finds this, Marcus Reed is killing people. My brother found proof and he paid for it with his life. I'm scared, but I can't stop now. I have to expose him." The video cut off. Behind Ethan, a voice spoke. "You should have stayed out of this." Ethan turned. Marcus Reed stood in the doorway, a gun in his hand. You know, Marcus Reed was a clever man, so was Lena, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. Ethan raised his weapon. "Where is she?" Marcus smiled. "Alive, for now." Ethan's heart pounded. "You don't have to do this." "I already did."
Sirens wailed in the distance. Ethan had triggered a silent alarm before entering. Marcus's smile faded. "Seems you're more clever than I thought." He fired. Ethan dove behind the desk as bullets tore through the walls. Glass shattered. Sparks flew. Marcus ran. Ethan chased him down the stairwell, out into the rain-soaked docks, but by the time backup arrived, he was gone. But Ethan wasn't defeated. He had Lena's video, and now he had proof. Marcus Reed had been exposed. The only thing left to do was to find Lena before Marcus finished what he started.
The rain had not stopped since Marcus Reed vanished into the maze of shipping containers. It felt as if the city itself was trying to wash away what had been uncovered, the lies, the blood, the carefully hidden crimes. But Detective Ethan Cole wasn't going to let it disappear so easily. Lena Hart was still out there, and Marcus Reed was running out of places to hide. Ethan's first move was to release Lena's video to Internal Affairs and the district attorney. Within hours, Marcus Reed went from respected billionaire to the most wanted man in the city. His bank accounts were frozen, his properties were raided, the empire he had spent decades building began to collapse. But Ethan knew Marcus wouldn't surrender. Men like him never did. They tried to escape. Using Daniel Hart's files, Ethan found something Marcus had been careful to hide, a private airstrip outside the city connected to a shell company. A plane was scheduled to leave before dawn, Marcus's exit. Police surrounded the airstrip just as the first gray light crept into the sky. A sleek private jet waited on the runway, engines warming. A black SUV sped toward it. "Target approaching," a sniper whispered over the radio. The SUV door opened. Marcus Reed stepped out, and so did Lena Hart. Her hands were tied, her face bruised, but her eyes were still burning with defiance. Ethan's heart nearly stopped. "He's got her." "Hold," the commander ordered. "We wait for a clear shot." Marcus shoved Lena toward the plane. "You should have listened to me," he hissed in her ear. "You and your brother both." Ethan couldn't wait. He stepped out of cover. "Marcus, let her go!" Marcus turned, startled, then smiled. Detective Cole, always ruining things. He pressed the gun against Lena's head. "Take another step, and she dies." Ethan raised his hands. "It's over. You've lost." Marcus laughed. "Lost? I have more money hidden than you could imagine. I could disappear tonight, live like a king." "You won't get the chance." Marcus tightened his grip on Lena. "You already killed her brother. You don't have to make it worse." Lena's voice was weak but fierce. "Do it, Ethan. Don't let him win." Marcus snarled. "Shut up." That was the moment Ethan needed. The sniper fired. The bullet struck Marcus in the shoulder. His grip loosened. Lena fell forward, free. Ethan ran. Marcus fired wildly, then tried to flee toward the jet, but police tackled him before he reached the steps. He was screaming as they dragged him away. "You don't know what you've done! You don't know how many people were involved!" Ethan knelt beside Lena. She was shaking, but alive. "You did it! You believed me!" Ethan helped her up. "Your brother would be proud." Weeks later, Marcus Reed sat in a cold courtroom, no longer powerful, no longer protected. The evidence was overwhelming: the money laundering, the murders, the fake deaths. The truth Daniel and Lena had risked everything to uncover was now laid bare. Marcus was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Lena testified. So did Ethan. The city finally knew the truth. On a quiet afternoon, Ethan visited Daniel Hart's grave. Lena stood beside him, holding flowers. "I spent so long chasing this," she said softly. "I almost lost myself." "But you didn't," Ethan replied. She nodded, "because someone finally listened." As they walked away, the storm clouds began to break. The mystery was over, but the truth, painful and powerful, had finally been set free.